about 3 posts on either side.
Really not nice.
No. I've been a little shallow, but I was not thrilled.
Okay, so we're going to sit back here for a moment. All right, 10 o'clock we will walk out. Okay. Welcome to our Sunday services at First Unitarian Church of St. Louis. Hello, my name is Judy Crouch, she, hers, and I'm a member of this congregation. I'm so glad you could join us this morning. I want to welcome any visitors or newcomers. If you're new to our congregation, I encourage you to fill out a newcomer form by using the QR code in the lobby, or you can do it at a link in the live stream description. We especially want to welcome any families with children. You can connect with our acting RE coordinator, Andrea Barron, after the service for information about our religious education programs for children and youth, or you can click on the link in the description. We are happy to be together with you this morning. With rising caseloads and the new Omicron variant, be sure and assess your level of risk before attending church. We're glad that those who are attending online are staying safe. For those in person, be sure and maintain social distancing practices, and at the end of the service, please wait for the ushers to direct your exit, then join us out front in the sunny exterior for coffee. One of the new things we're trying this month is how we handle joys and concerns. We've created an online form where you can enter your joys or sorrows at any time leading up to the pastoral prayer. You can find the link in your order of service, in the live stream description, or by using the QR code in your pew, which is the bottom one. Just point your smartphone camera at the code and it will go to the web page. Don't forget, you can also enter your joys and concerns in the form anytime during the week. Check our Friday e-news for details. Our Christmas Eve services of lessons and carols will happen at 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. this Friday with live music and the traditional candle lighting. Please be sure and RSVP if you plan to attend in person so that we can accommodate you and your family. The service will also be live streamed on our YouTube channel at 4:30 p.m., and it will be available afterwards for later viewing. Welcome to this religious community where we affirm the dignity and freedom of all who enter. Here we seek to live together in relationship and respect so that we may embrace and celebrate our differences. Our religious values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning. Sincerity and connection guide our religious community and call us into deeper association with ourselves and with our world. Welcome. We are glad you are part of our community this morning.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Kim Mason, she, her, hers, and I serve this congregation as minister. It is good to be together this morning. Our theme for the month of December is opening to joy. Today, we celebrate the calm and the joy that can be found in the winter solstice and in the restful time of darkness. I invite you into worship with these words from the Reverend Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Blessed is the dark, in which our dreams stir and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth, where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean, where no light shimmers, the womb of all earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed, and calls the shadow forth from the tree. Blessed are we as we move through darkness and through light. Come, let us worship together. Please join in our opening hymn, number 226, People Look East. If you are here in person, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and hum along. If you are attending online, do sing out.
I'd like to invite Greg Cotter and Tim Wheatley to please come forward for the chalice lighting. These words that honor the winter solstice are by Ariel Hunt Broadwin. Chalice flame, we kindle you for love. Love to keep our hands and hearts warm in the wintry cold. Love to comfort us as our hearts break for the pain of the world. Love to bring us into community so that we may grow stronger together.
Today is the Sunday before the winter solstice. In this month of Advent, we recognize the multitude of winter holidays. Earlier this month was Hanukkah. Later this month, Christmas and Kwanzaa. These festivals of light are symbols of hope and joy to many. Today, we light the fourth candle on the Advent wreath, the candle of peace, alongside the Yule log in honor of the solstice. mask on and off is kind of a matter of coordination when I have all these other things hanging around. Once upon a time, there lived a people who loved the light. They loved it so much that in the morning, as the sun rose, they would sing songs celebrating the light. They would sing them every day. And then at the end of each day, as the sun began to go down, they would be sad and sing sorrowful songs, missing the light of the sun. They loved the light so very, very much. They did not at all love the dark. Once the darkness fell every night, they would hurry to bed, since they could only bear the darkness when they were asleep. And even then, they had to have a fire or a candle or some lamp burning all night long. The people loved the light so much that it was their wish that the sun would never, ever go down. But every day, the sun went down, and they sang their sorrowful songs. And they endured the fear and the strangeness and the darkness until they could greet the sun again with songs in the morning. Now, in this land, 2 children were born. They were twins. One child seemed to glow from within. Whenever the child entered a room, there just seemed to be extra light. Everything was a little bit brighter. And the people loved this child so very, very much. The other child seemed to bring darkness into each space. Whenever the child entered a room, everything seemed just a little bit dimmer. There were shadows in the corners, and the people were a little bit quieter. They did not like this child. They were scared because the child reminded them of everything they feared in the dark. However, the twins loved each other very, very much. And as they grew, it became quite clear that these twins were in fact magical children. The child of light had the power to bring back life. Anytime a plant had withered or drooped, the child could make it spring back to life. The child could make crops sprout and grow more abundantly. The child could even heal cuts and bruises, and as the child got older, even broken bones. The child of darkness, on the other hand, had the power to calm and quiet everything. Even animals, when they were frightened or startled, the child simply helped them to still. The child of darkness could calm raging storms and bring a calm over everything. This still did not endear the child of darkness to the community. And the community still loved the sun very, very much. And so one day, the community went to the child of light and said, "Would you please, very, very much, use your magic to keep the sun in the sky forever. The child was reluctant. This didn't really seem like such a great idea, but they couldn't really explain why. But month after month after month, the people kept coming to the child, please, please. And finally, the child gave in. One day, when the sun was at its highest, the child went out, upraised arms, and called to the sun to stop. At first, no one was sure anything had actually happened. You know, the sun moves so very slowly across the sky. But eventually it became clear that, in fact, the sun had stopped. The people were overjoyed. You know those Snoopy dances we talked about the other week? Definitely big parties, lots of songs. And for the week afterwards, people were pretty happy. But soon they began to get tired. It's really hard to sleep in full, bright daylight. Some of them remembered, oh yeah, that child of darkness helps everything to calm and even sleep. And so they went to the child of darkness and said, could you please just, give me a little rest? Just a little, not a lot, just a little. And the child said, of course, and tried. But somehow, along with the light forever in the sky, the child had lost their power. And so it was that after about a month, the people began to see that this was a problem. They were constantly tired, and the sun never moved. Everyone was afraid to say anything at first. They knew how much folks loved the sun. But eventually, slowly, they began to confide to one another. Shh, do you think maybe we made a bad decision? Do you think maybe a little bit of darkness would be okay? And soon they discovered that, in fact, everybody felt this way. And so they went back to the child of the light and they said, okay, you can let the sun move again. And so the child went up to the top of the hill, up went the arms, and said, please move, sun, you may rest. And nothing happened. And again. And again. And people began to worry. This was really a problem. And then the twin said, how about if I try? And so the twin of darkness stepped onto the hill, threw up the arms, and said, please move, sun. And very quickly, the sun moved across the sky, down over the edge of the horizon. Twilight and then full darkness descended upon the community. The people were both pleased but a little caught off guard. They had nothing to light their way. They had never been outside in the dark before because they had always been too scared. At first, they tried rushing around, back and forth, trying to get home, but you know what happens when you rush in the dark? That midnight run down the hallway, I always stub my toe. It's a bad scene. But then, one person looked up and saw stars. Oh. They had never been outside in the night, and they didn't know the beauty of the sky and the twinkling lights, and they stood in wonder. And then they remembered how very tired they were, and slowly, carefully, with a little more reverence, they started home again. And they slept for a very, very long time. And they learned in that moment to appreciate what the darkness could bring to them for the very first time. Eventually, the sun did rise again, and the people sang their songs of welcome. But that night, as the sun began to descend again, instead of their songs of sorrow, the people sang songs of gratitude and appreciation, thanksgiving for the night. The twins grew up to be much beloved by the people. Still the best of friends as well as siblings, they taught the people that the light and the darkness are best in balance. Each week, we seek balance through the sharing of joys and concerns, those bright moments and those challenging moments. This week, we send healing thoughts and prayers to Margaret Weck, who is home recovering from hip surgery. And we send prayers of healing and encouragement to Brian Deason, who was just diagnosed with stage 1 kidney cancer. It was discovered early, and he is optimistic about treatment. I invite you to share any sorrows or concerns you're holding at the link found in the QR code in your pew or the live stream description. We are with Pam Gempel, who is undergoing chemotherapy for breast cancer. She welcomes phone calls. And we're remembering those who are struggling during the holidays, with a hope that we'll all remember to keep our little food pantry in the parking lot full. And we hold a concern for a supervisor at work who has a breakthrough COVID case. And we send care for a good friend who just came home on hospice. We hold these sorrows, along with those unnamed, with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they are shared. As a community, we also share our joys with one another. I invite you to share any joys you're holding at the link found in your order of service or the live stream description. Today, we share deep gratitude and appreciation for skilled and caring medical professionals and this wonderful community that are so supportive during recovery from hip surgery. Appreciation for the joy of seeing friendly faces at church. An appreciation for gingerbread cookies. Mom's recipe, husband's hands. and gratitude for this time together. Grateful for the work of our staff and our church family to bring this service, and gratitude for being able to be here. We hold these joys with gladness and with celebration. May they be magnified because they are shared. For all of the joys and concerns that are holding in our hearts unspoken, please join me in a moment of prayer. Spirit of life and love, holy within and among us, thank you for the restful peace of night. Thank you for the plants slumbering in the dark earth. Thank you for the animals taking pause in this season to hibernate. Thank you for the bounty of seed and berry, root and nut that sustain life in the cold, short days. Spirit of life and love, great mystery. Let us remember those that mourn in this season. Let us offer compassion to those who struggle with darkness, real and symbolic. Let this be a time of healing for those who are ill, those who are hungry, those who are hurt and lonely. Spirit of life and love, source of comfort in the dark. May we look to the sky on the longest night and experience wonder in the light of the stars. May we look in our hearts and find gifts to share that bring light to others. And may the lights of this season bring hope to all of us, even as we celebrate the joy of darkness. May it be so. We pause in this space for a moment of silent prayer. Amen, and blessed be.
When
I didn't have my phone up here, so I couldn't do this during the joys, but I wanted to add a joy, and that's the joy of seeing Emily and Jeremy Colton in service today. Our first reading is by Wendell Berry, and it's entitled, "To Know the Dark." To go in the dark with the light is to know the light. To know the dark, go dark. Go without sight. And find that the dark too blooms and sings, and is traveled by dark feet and dark wings.
There is a Hollywood trope of the big city resident who travels to the country and when night comes, accustomed to the sounds of sirens and people, can't sleep due to all of the silence. Here in St. Louis, I too have become accustomed to the sounds of the city. Yet I retain my love of the singing night. In the silence, you hear the soft hoot of an owl, the thrumming rhythm of cicadas, the rustle of leaves on the wind. I find comfort in the night. Tuesday, December 21st at 10 a.m., or I believe it's technically like 9:57 a.m., is the annual winter solstice, when the pattern of shorter and shorter days stops and then reverses. The word solstice comes from Latin, sol, sun, and stare, to stand still. In her book, In Nature's Honor, author Patricia Medley explains that humans have been observing the solstice for millennia, often associated with a deity of light who conquers darkness and vanquishes need. That sounds a little familiar. Some form of winter solstice is observed by cultures on every continent of the globe. The changing of seasons, the turning and tilting of the planet is a universal experience. It is usually celebrated as an observance of the returning light when we anticipate longer days ahead. Yet first, we must experience the longest night. It is appropriate on the winter solstice to greet the darkness with gratitude. As we heard in our story earlier, we need the dark. Rest is necessary for wellness. It's also necessary for growth. If we do not rest, then our bodies and our minds don't accumulate the energy for change. Our bodies are the womb of the soul, giving birth to ourselves. Do not fear the darkness. Some things even require darkness. Mushrooms, for example. Without darkness, we would not be able to experience the beauty and wonder of light. As a child, my favorite Christmas night ritual was after all of the presents had been cleared away, I would crawl under the tree, my head next to the stand, and look up in the darkness of the branches around me, watching the multicolored lights twinkling above me. Without darkness, we would not see the stars or moon. There is magic that happens in a darkened theater when the lack of light lets us lose ourselves in a story. The peace of darkness is an incubator, protecting us until it's time to emerge into the light. The First Unitarian Church of St. Louis strives to be a welcoming congregation, inspiring lives of loving kindness and integrity by nurturing spirituality, building community, and advancing justice. One of the ways we do that is by sharing the plate. This morning, all non-pledge contributions will go to support our little free pantry. If you were here in some of our outdoor services this summer, you might have wondered what that little plastic shed was in the parking lot. The Little Free Pantry is part of a national grassroots movement of small local pantries that provide little things to help out between trips to the stores or larger food pantries. Members of the church and community sponsor the contents of the pantry. Your contributions today will help with the purchase of winter items and other essentials to help fill the pantry during the harsher winter months. And you can always sign up through the e-news. There's a link for all of the weeks of the year, and you can sponsor our pantry any week. Today, we are not passing a physical plate, yet you may donate online through our Text to Give program, or you can leave a contribution in the collection box on your way out of the sanctuary. Now please enjoy Greg Holtzel's Winter Medley for this holiday season.
Our second reading is entitled In Celebration of the Winter Solstice by Stephanie Noble. Do not be afraid of the darkness. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed, nourishing growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. Only in darkness is the moon's dance so clear. There is mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is magic in the darkness. Do not be afraid. We are born of this magic. It fills our dreams that root, unravel, and weave themselves in the shelter of the deep, dark night. The dark has its own hue, its own resonance, its own breath. It fills our soul, not with despair, but with promise. Dark is the gestation of our deep and knowing self. Dark is the cave where we rest and renew our soul. We are born of the darkness, and each night we return to the deep, moist womb of our beginnings. Do not be afraid of the darkness, for in the depth of that very darkness comes a first glimpse of our own light, the pure inner light of love and knowing. As it glows and grows, the darkness recedes. As we shed our light, we shed our fear and revel in the wonder of all that is revealed. So, do not rush the coming of the sun. Do not crave the lengthening of the day. Celebrate the darkness. Here and now, a time of richness, a time of joy.
It is natural to fear the dark. As human animals, we struggle to function in the dark. Thus, the darkness is a space full of risk. We might fall. We might run into something. Something with better eyesight or better hearing might attack us. All or none of this might happen. Thus, our fear of the darkness is really a fear of the unknown. What might happen? What might be out there? All the religious imagery of light during this season is the celebration of belief, the celebration of knowing, the celebration of certainty. There are two schools of philosophical thought that can help us articulate this light and dark dualism. In a UU World article titled Grateful for the Dark, the Reverend Laura Randall explains, cataphatic thought describes ultimate reality by what it is. Much of Western religion, including Unitarian Universalism, favors cataphatic thought. But apophatic traditions say that we can only speak of ultimate reality in terms of what it is not. Which means that apophatic traditions are often filled with the unknown and unknowable. In a faith community rich with religious pluralism, as Unitarian Universalists are, we can make space for and even invite mystery and uncertainty. We can revel in it just as we honor knowledge. As Unitarian Universalists, it is also our duty to interrogate the ways in which religion is used as a tool of oppression. The light and dark dualism of Western religion has been used to justify hundreds of years of racism against brown and black people. In her new book, The Darkness Divine, the Reverend Dr. Kristen Harper explains how language has evolved from early uses of the word black, spelled B-L-A-C, in Old English, which means bright and shining, and in Old French, Italian, and Spanish to mean pale and colorless, with another word, black, spelled B-L-A-E-C, which meant absorbing all light, absolute dark. And it eventually took on the connotation of black, meaning sin and sorrow. Harper writes, "As a student of religion and race for many decades, I have been concerned with the consistent equating of darkness and blackness with negative qualities such as sin and despair. Our connection to the divine is deeply personal, a driving force. Continuing to associate black with dark and evil or the absence of God has only contributed to fear, dehumanization, and violence towards black and brown people." Harper then goes on to articulate the need for a theology of darkness that alters how we relate to the darkness, blackness, brownness surrounding us. Such a theology of darkness encourages us to rethink both our language and our rituals. Is there room for darkness in a season of light? Can we create an opportunity for both light and dark? If we ground ourselves in the natural earth-based rhythms of life, such wisdom already exists.
Perhaps for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking. The wheels stop rolling. The computers desist from computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness, and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard, and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter Earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice.
I have long celebrated the winter solstice as the return of light. As someone who suffers with a little bit of seasonal affective disorder, the dim and gloomy days of winter are a long slog for me. But just this fall, I learned that for all of us sun lovers, there is a small population of folks who have a reverse form of seasonal affective disorder. When the days get longer and hotter, these folks struggle with a depressive mood, only to reawaken when the days get shorter and colder. In her book, Learning to Walk in the Dark, the Reverend Barbara Brown Taylor encourages us to re-examine what she calls a full solar spirituality, one that ignores or denies darkness. Members of full solar churches, she says, strive to be positive in attitude, firm in conviction, helpful in relationship, and unwavering in faith. You've heard it before. Trust in God's plan. Everything happens for a reason. Be positive. There is strength and resilience to be found in sources of comfort and meaning. And there is comfort and relief to be found in acknowledging times of struggle. As we approach 2022, we approach year 3 of this global pandemic. It has been a long and arduous slog, and frankly, everything happens for a reason is wearing a little thin. I see you. It is frustrating to constantly evaluate an ever-changing level of risk. I know you're tired. It is frustrating to keep adapting to new patterns and practices. I am right here with you. Barbara Brown Taylor describes a lunar spirituality that allows for a waxing and waning of spiritual light in our lives. Such a spirituality makes room for moments of sadness and loss, for struggle and challenge. Such a spirituality says there is room for growth in the difficult spaces. Such a spirituality says we are allowed to slow down and pause. In fact, that's what this season is about. We can be made whole in the dark. Poet and artist Jan Richardson articulates just such a spirituality in her prayer, "The moon is always whole." She says, "God of the two lights, I love the sun, its revealing brilliance, its lingering warmth. But in the dark of night, let me learn the wisdom of the moon, how it waxes and wanes but does not die, how it gives itself to shadow, knowing it will emerge whole once more." To celebrate the winter solstice is to invite a lunar spirituality, one that acknowledges the dark, honors the dark, and allows the dark to both come and go, just as the light does. To be present to the longest night is not to say there is only hope in the light. It does not mean trouble is over, but the returning light lets us see all the ways that we have grown. May it be so. Our closing hymn is number 55, "Dark of Winter." Please rise in body or spirit as able. Hum along here in the sanctuary or sing out online.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet call surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of life eternal, gentle darkness, soft and still. Bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me, and then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
Our closing words come from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Darkness does not mean doom. It only means mystery. Our human brains, when faced with darkness, often imagine the worst. That our fears are true, that our worries were premonitions. When we remember that darkness only means we don't know all that's out there, we are able to embrace it as a tool for preparation, for rest, for renewal. As we travel these final days before solstice, may we embrace the mystery of the dark and release ourselves from anxiety. May we hold out hope for personal change and for world change, the kind of hope that inspires us to keep on showing up, lighting candles, and loving the world. May it be so, in this season and always. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace. As your final act of worship, I invite you to greet your neighbor. You can turn and wave, and then join others at 11:30 on Zoom for virtual coffee hour. Now please enjoy our postlude.